Alpine Touch has been a staple of Montana for nearly 8 decades. Folks around the Treasure State have been putting Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasoning on their steaks and burgers for longer than most of us have been alive. The holidays are coming up. If you want to knock everyone's socks off, be sure to pick up some Alpine Touch Cold Smoke Rub for the best flavor for your Thanksgiving turkey or your Christmas prime rib. Alpine Touch comes in the mail right to your door. Just visit alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Back for another week, and he's actually driving this time, so we'll try to make sure we're really safe while we're doing this. Michael Ryder joining us here on the Big Sky Breakdown, as well as the Skyline Sports YouTube channel. I mean, what a day. Look at your background, man. This is like a display of Montana on a postcard for everybody to see.
That's the truth, man. Sun in your face. You and I were just talking about it, but I'm driving through Livingston right now. It's 44 degrees. Probably feels like 10 degrees with the wind they're going to have, but all in all, 44 degrees, and forecast for Saturday, 48, I think, maybe feels like 50, 52. I don't know what's happening, Colter, but I don't hate the nice weather, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, not as much of a home field advantage when it's not icy cold, snowy, freezing, but still Montana State continues to ride their home field advantage, and now they have just one home game guaranteed left. So, before we get to that, though, let's start with last week. I've talked a lot about this game already this week, so I'll just kind of give you the floor. What'd you think of just the way that it all went down in Bozeman last Friday night? That was a great game that turned into a runaway real quick.
Yeah, I think it went – the end result wasn't probably exactly as I thought, but there are a lot of things that happened along the way that seemed I probably could have called, and I thought that it was going to be a tough game to begin with. Interesting that I think that first drive, maybe it's the first or second drive, Cats get another stop on 4th down again, like we saw back in October. Very first stop of it, they went for it on 4th down. Idaho didn't get it, but back and forth, 10-10 at the end of the first quarter, and you saw a couple things. The Bobcat offense leading to Tommy, and there was one drive there that he was like, "Look, we're done. We're kind of done playing around here. I want to put it on my back, and we're gonna take this thing down here and score." And he did, and that plus some of the creativity by Coach Eck, you knew they were going to take some deep shots. Colter, we saw that. They've got 2 really talented receivers, which obviously people think that now with them in the transfer portal, and they've got some big time offers, right? It's Dwyer. And the other guy is who?
Mark Hamper, who's a freshman All-American.
And Hamper, thank you. So they took the shots, which you and I talked about. We saw that coming. They connected on a corner post to start the game. But Coach Eck was going to pull off all the stops, right? Some of the play calls, the creativity there, the onside kick. But ultimately, you saw the Bobcat offense lead into what they do best, and Tommy put it on his back, and to go up 31-10 at half, the margin of error was so small for Idaho, and once that balloon was out of the area, it was gone. You knew it. You knew at the end of the half that was going to be it. But impressed by Idaho and their season. I've told you this a number of times, talking about Coach Eck. What a guy. Excited for him and his next chapter there in New Mexico. I think he's the perfect guy for that job. And they've got a lot of really good players. You can tell a lot of them are getting recruited out of the portal. They got offers from all over the country. Jackson, his son, being one of them. Really, really, really excited. So the dominance of both offense and defensively, the Cats, I continue to be impressed. So all in all, impressive game, a lot of momentum, and South Dakota comes to town here on Saturday.
Here at Five Valleys Restoration, your view is our view, and what a beautiful view it is. We are proud to be locally owned, locally operated. We love our community here in Missoula and also the full 5 valleys that we do service. We give back to the community, we service our community. Our kids go to school here, we live here, we play here, and we love it here.
There's always a party in Montana, whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert. Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Western Montana based for local and regional travel within Montana borders. Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus.
Is a will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana.
Yeah, we're going to get in more about the Montana State continued season, et cetera. I always like getting your perspective on this kind of stuff, though, because, first of all, Idaho being back to being good has been very, very good for the Big Sky. Idaho, they have natural rivalries with all the other schools that have fan bases that care, right? Like, Idaho being good also makes it so that Montana State people care about Idaho, and Montana people care about Idaho, and Eastern Washington people care about Idaho. Idaho State people care about Idaho. Idaho has to nail this next hire because they can't afford to go back to being bad now that they got the momentum. But the other part is though, man, like, first of all, great job by Jason Eck to recruit so many talented guys there, because every one of these guys is jumping in the portal and getting big time offers, like you were saying. But I just don't know if the way of the world that's going to work in college football is if you don't win the national championship and you also have a coach that has enough success to get a new job, that then your whole team is just going to leave. That is a very unsustainable model. Like, it's going to screw over everybody that's not Alabama or everybody that's not North Dakota State and Montana State. Like, I don't know how, and even Montana State's not immune to it either, right? Like, if Brent Vegan was to leave, there would be a lot of people that left and it would hurt the program. So I don't know how you fix this. I don't blame those guys for leaving. Like, if they want to go there to play for Coach Eck and they can go get big time offers, okay. But it just seems like if this is going to always happen, like we saw it at Marshall earlier this week too, if the coach leaves means half the roster is going to leave, there has to be some sort of stopgap in place to like mitigate that in some form or fashion, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have thought round and round about this, and I don't know the answer, Colter, but I agree there has to be something that the schools and even like Dakota's, the reason that they're a little bit different, and I think it's no surprise where they've developed some of these kids and that they're staying in their program, is because there isn't any FBS programs in those states. And so even if, let's say, Vegan were to leave, there are going to be a lot of kids there that, like, absolutely, they're going to take off, they're going to do something different. And I hate to say that, but in particular, the kids that aren't from the state of Montana, but North Dakota, South Dakota State, Montana, there are going to be a lot of kids that stick around, i.e. Junior Bergen, i.e. Tommy Malott, but he'd gone and done something, last year in the transfer portal, probably. I bet he probably could have and gone and got the shot somewhere else. But they care about the state because there is that state pride there. And I hate to say it, it's not that people don't love the University of Idaho, but you're not Boise State. And so that there's just a fact of that. North Dakota State, you are the show there, right? South Dakota State, you are the show. There is a state pride there. And so that's kind of what makes those states in particular unique. But I don't know the stall for the other states. It's going to be a mass exodus when these people leave. And so I don't know how you, other than even Coach Houck talking about it recently, and other people have said the same, but like, you're just building a team 1 year. You either going to understand that unless something changes. But But right now, your opportunity is to build a team for next year. That is it. There's nothing else guaranteed. And if you're going to fool yourself and think you're going to go about it a different way, I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, that's right. And it also shows you, I think, how much players loved playing for Coach Eck. How they don't want to go. They don't want to play for anybody else. But then he also recruited a bunch of guys from big metro areas too. And I think that's right, man. Like the kid who grew up wanting to play for Montana State his whole life, it's going to be a way tougher decision for him to leave Bozeman than like Dallas Afalava, for example, the D tackle for Idaho. Like dude's from Seattle. He's only a sophomore. He's a first team All-American type of guy. Like that dude can go wherever he wants, and he probably only went to Idaho to play for Jason X. So now if he ends up in New Mexico or Nevada or wherever else he ends up, like I don't know, you can't really blame the kid. It just seems like if everything's just going to funnel to the top level, it seems like eventually everything will just funnel to the top level, and then everything that's not the top level has no level of sustainability. And I think that's a bad thing for programs that aren't, Alabama and Georgia.
Yep, I totally agree. And the toothpaste is out of the tube. And now, how do you sort that? How do you sort this out? Like, it's going to take some legit leadership to try and figure out what do we do with this? Because it has to change. It has to change. Otherwise, it's just it's a detriment to. It's ultimately a detriment to the kid. They don't know it, but it is a detriment to the kid for a lot of reasons. For the education, the transfer portal isn't what it seems. I do think it's a bit of a mirage in a lot of cases. These offers that we're even seeing on social media, are they actual offers? Right? Not every program operates the same way where an offer is an offer. An offer is actually like just I'm telling you, but I don't even know if I would accept your verbal commitments. Like there's too many factors, man, and it's got to be fixed, and it's going to take a lot of leadership. And I listen to a lot of college sports radio, and one of the guys that I love his perspective is Rick Nuanez. He's got a lawyer background, and he's coached it. He's lived it as a player. Guys like him, I think some of these people got to put their heads together and figure out, like, how do we move forward? But at the end of the day, this is going to sound so hopeless, but it's probably true. It's just money is like such the driver in all this stuff.
No question.
It's like, boy, I don't know how you can ever, once this is taking place, how do you take it back? I'm not sure, man, but they better figure it out fast.
Well, I do think we'll actually have a sample size of data in 20 to 25 years, but it's going to take a quarter century before you have it. But I do think you'll have a sample size of data down the road. And here's what I think could be the tipping point is take a guy like Jackson Eck, for example. He was a first-team all-conference player this last year as a sophomore. He's a great Big Sky linebacker. He just got an offer from Michigan State. Is he going to go be an all Big Ten linebacker? I'm unsure. If he does, awesome, great job for him.
Yep.
But it's a 1% chance.
Yep.
If he stays at Idaho, he has a chance to be a 3-time first-team all Big Sky guy, which has happened 50 times in the league ever. I mean, it's the Troy Andersons and Tremaine Johnsons and Trevin Smiths that are like the first-team all-conference 3 years in a row type of guy. Right. Yep. And he would be remembered as a lineage player, like a legendary player. Here's the thing that could overcome money is if somebody could actually do a cost benefit analysis of, okay, you stayed at one place, you became an all-time great, you're on the wall of fame, you're a 3-time all-conference player, and you have a legacy in that town, in that community, and in that program, and then project what that does for your future earnings as a person. That's the thing that I think that you could sell to kids like, hey, you're going to leave here for $100,000 today. Well, what if you stayed here and you're going to get a $100,000 job for the rest of your life? That's the thing I think you could use to swing the money part of it.
Yeah, it's so well said, man. Because that is what the old recruiting pitch was. And that's what you are trying to develop is this. No, it did have some crazy price tag, but it is your own personal brand. So, I think kids need to take that stuff look at guys like, again, just looking over the guys, the Hill and Missoula, and I look at guys like, Junior Bergen. He created a name for himself and etched himself into Grizzly history forever. And I can promise you that will afford him opportunities that are going to be greater than the financial means and the contracts that were offered to him via the NIL. I can guarantee, just based on living in a state like this and your exposure and ability to fall into a job, and you're afforded different opportunities. And it really is, if you do it right, it's the gift that keeps on giving if you do it right. But how do you tell that to an 18-year-old kid?
Right.
Especially one that's not from here, that maybe doesn't come from a lot of money, and he used that as a quick ticket to, I don't know, buy mom and dad a house? I don't know. But everybody's got a different background, and it's a bummer we're in the situation at all, Colter, honestly.
Cash One Pawn has the most extensive inventory of any pawn shop in western Montana. Whether you're in the market for firearms, power tools, bows, video game consoles, or sunglasses, Cash One Pawn has the best deals around. And now Cash One Pawn gives you the ability to shop online from anywhere. Make CashOnePawn.com part of your shopping habits. Also make sure to download the Cash One Pawn app. Cash One Pawn, Missoula's premier pawn shop, located on Roller Coaster Road on the way to the Y.
It really is, because it makes me just wonder so much about like what's going to happen to all this. But it's also what makes this specific Cat team so special is they have a bunch of guys that could have gone somewhere else and they didn't. It's also what made South Dakota State last year so special and Montana last year so special. Those guys decided like, hey, we're going to choose each other, the program, and winning over any amount of money that we could go get at all these other different places that are maybe meddling and recruiting them. So I don't know. We don't need to dwell on this too long, but I really do hope that there is some solutions. But here's the number one. I said this on my ESPN show earlier this week. You want to know the number one solution, how you keep guys in your program? Win it all, you know?
Yeah.
Because if you just keep on winning, like if you keep on winning, the guys are going to miss the transfer portal window, first of all. Like, you know what I mean? Like last year, Junior Bergen only had 5 days to get recruited, not 5 weeks. So then he's coming off a national championship game where he's feeling all high and mighty about himself and about the program. So then he stays in Missoula. You win. Like Mark Karnowski, he got recruited for 1 week, not 5 weeks. That's a huge deal to keep him around. So I think that's the number one solution is win and have it be about something more than yourself. And I think that's a good way to sum that up. We'll keep on talking about it. Go ahead. If you have one more thing to add, go ahead.
No, I just totally agree with you. And the winning cures so much. And then in the rural states like the Dakotas and Montana, it just there's like playing for each other because there is a different fabric to the whole thing. Man, it's amplified, and so we've seen that with Montana's success last year and the Cat success, and obviously the South Dakota states and North Dakota states of the world. So.
Ridin with Ryder, Big Sky Breakdown, SkylineSportsMT.com, probably presented by the Bobcat Collective. Bobcat Collective offering free memberships. You want a free month to the Bobcat Collective? Visit bobcatcollective.com/skyline. You get a free month and you can see what they're all about. And I promise you're going to like it. And then hopefully you keep on staying signed up and contributing to Montana State's NIL Collective to help usher MSU athletics into the modern era. The one sort of elephant in the room last week was the onside kick that Jason Eck had.
Yep.
If you know him, you knew he was going to do it. Like if you know Coach Eck, you know he's
100%.
He's going for it on 4th down. He's going to run a fake special teams play, and he's going to onside kick it. He's going to do it. It's a matter of when, though. I thought the fact that they had been going toe-to-toe with Montana State, they hadn't been forced to punt yet. Like they got stopped on the short 4th down, but they had not been forced to punt yet. I thought it was maybe a little early. But also, I think it tells you what he realistically thought about the game. I think he thought that they had to steal 2 possessions if they were going to be in it. So maybe the timing didn't matter.
Yeah, I agree. It was very calculated. That guy, he knows what he's doing, and any open door or an opportunity to handle that, do an onside kick, I bet he was going to take that shot because to steal 2 possessions and then score, I think you're right. That's what it was going to take to even get any type of momentum. You look at some of the play action shots that they took early on, the one that they scored on, like there was a checklist and a recipe that how are they going to win this game? And part of it was some of the things you alluded to. So not surprised, the timing of it, you could argue one way or the other, but I like the aggressive nature that Coach Jack coaches with. So I think they're good calls. He looks like a genius if they work, right?
No question. The transitioning to the South Dakota game then, now the Bobcats are knocking on the door. They've been in this spot a bunch, but they've only gotten past this spot once in the last 40 years. So I guess 2-part question. What do you think of just sort of this elevated standard that is now the reality at Montana State? I mean, semifinals for the 4th time in 5 years. That's never been done before by the Cats. And it's also, I thought, interesting, 406 MT Sports had an article. It's never been done by the Grizz either. The Grizz have been in 4 out of 7, 3 different times, but never 4 in 5 years like Montana State's had right now. So what have been the key factors to them getting to this point as a program? And what do you think of just sort of that elevated expectation for Montana State football?
Oh gosh, as an alum, I look at the elevated expectations, and it makes me proud. I mean, first and foremost, this is a guy like I remember coming in as a freshman. I'll never forget my first couple of years in the program at Montana State, and maybe some listeners will kill me for this, but still, I do remember like some of my teammates making plans for Thanksgiving.
Right.
You're kind of like, boy, I observed that coming from West High as a senior. We were 13-0. Like I never stepped on the field one time ever expecting to lose at West High ever. Right. And so you go to a program where you're like, people are making plans for Thanksgiving. Like that means that we're not in the playoffs. That means like this is all wrong. Right. And so I look at that in comparison to what has transpired over the last 15 years. And it's taken a lot of different coaches, different approaches, different quarterbacks and coordinators and ADs to get to where they're at now. And they're at the mountaintop right now, clearly. And so exciting to see. I have so much respect for, we've said this multiple weeks now, but the 1-0 mentality. That's what they've adopted. It's one thing to talk about that, Colter. It's a whole nother thing to be, 14-0. And attacking each week individually. And they've done that. They've done that really successfully. And that takes really, really good leadership. It takes good coaching. It takes buy-in. Clearly the attention to detail and the will to prepare has been at an all-time high. You can see that. I think you then take it into the execution, just the small stuff, the offensive and defensive line play, how physical that is. I think on defense, they do an exceptional job bouncing back from plays that don't go their way. They set the line of scrimmage really well on defense. They cup the football, meaning they're not losing contain. They do a good job rushing the passer. They don't miss a whole lot of tackles. They communicate really effectively. I think across the board, you've seen just the details that have carried over from each week. And it says, it speaks to why they're 14-0. And, it's going to take a lot for this South Dakota team, in my opinion, to come in and knock them off. I really do think that. It's at home, which is helpful, but that South Dakota team looked physical and tough last week at home.
South Dakota, man for man, I think can stand up and fight with Montana State for sure. They got really good offensive line. They got really good defensive line. They got a good quarterback. I mean, they're in the Final Four for a reason. They got a good team. They have great running back. They have dudes all over the place. Number 90 on defense, I think, is straight league. Talking about a guy that's going to get offered a lot of money. He's going to go wherever he wants. He's got like 19 sacks. He's an absolute freak off the edge. He's like 6'5", 280 is what they list him at, and he can run. Marquise Grace is a good player, man. But all that said, I actually think that the number one factor in this game has nothing to do with the matchup. It has nothing to do with line play or Tommy Milot's execution or Aiden Bauman's execution or any of that stuff. I think the fact of the matter is that this is the last home game that will be played at Bobcat Stadium with all those seniors in the fold. And it doesn't matter if they win or they lose. This is it. And they know that. And it's very, very, very rare in sports that you get a chance to have that sort of guaranteed finality. Like, this is the last time you're ever going to play there. So why would you ever go do anything besides play the absolute best game of your entire life. And we saw this like the last time they had this scenario. Daniel Hardy and Troy Anderson, who are two of the great players in the history of the program, had their best games of their lives in that moment against South Dakota State. So that's a lot of pressure to try to channel that, but I also think that these guys have the mental fortitude to channel it, and I think that that's going to be the number one factor in this game.
Yeah, I think the experience that we've talked about in the playoffs the last handful of years, they've experienced heartache. Yeah, they've had some success and people have watched it in 2021 where they make the national championship run with a young, freshman and Tommy Malott. Then you make semis, and then last year with a weird missed extra point against North Dakota State. They've seen it all. There's an experience that also gets to be channeled along with the expectation. So I'm with you. I think that's the challenge is channeling it, but I think if there's a team that can do it, you'd worry about it if they've never been here before. And again, the edge goes to the Cats. This is the first time South Dakota's made the Final Four, right? So they're going to be coming to shock the world, but advantage to the Cats being at home and their veteran leadership and a bunch of really quality players. So it's going to be a dogfight. I'm excited to see what shakes out in the trenches specifically, how physical that's going to be. Those guys last week talking about South Dakota, the announcers, and thinking that they're the best offensive line in the FCS. They look like they have some big guys. Bauman has done a good job. I think he's a real good quarterback, but maybe get him off his spot, make some questionable decisions. But Tice is a great running back. He's a physical downhill. He looks like a Montana State type running back. So what's going to give? Hopefully the home field advantage, the will of your seniors, a lot of experience in the playoffs. Maybe it all wins out for the Bobcats. I sure hope so.
It's so funny you mentioned Tice. He's like Cody Kirk and Chase Reynolds' love child or something like that. Like if that guy was from Montana, I'd be like, yep, that guy's from Montana. He's from Frenchtown or something. Like he's from Ridin or somewhere like that. So yeah, pretty funny. Riding with Ryder here on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series. I know you got to go, so thanks so much for taking some time, man. Appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, appreciate you, Colter. Thanks for having me.